There's been a few months since the first 9 episodes of Season 3, and now, just in time for Christmas, we have the remaining 9 episodes of Season 3, making all 18 episodes Season 3A and Season 3B, or as we used to call things like this in my day, Season 3 and Season 4. Stop it! Even great shows are guilty of that shit. When we last left the gang, they were on their way to Japan because Stalker Steve is gonna marry CJ, but he overheard DJ say on the plane that Steve is her soulmate. So let's continue on with the story of DJ making the biggest mistake of her life. The episode starts out with a Japanese version of the theme song, which briefly made me think that I sat on some random button on the remote. I kinda wish the rest of the episode was in Japanese, cause at least then I wouldn't understand the shitty jokes. It hasn't happened since Season 1, but rest assured, annoying Max finally brought back the Holy Chalupas. Either have a catchphrase or don't. What brings the Holy Chalupas out in him is that he now has a girlfriend. Who's kidding who there? When a fish eats Steve's wedding ring at the ceremony, Steve and DJ jump over a waterfall in order to catch the fish, which then prompts Steve to immediately call off the wedding in front of everyone. And then DJ calls off her engagement to Matt, again, in front of everyone. These are all terrible people! Though I never thought I would say this, but this episode actually does have a few funny parts in it. They spot Uncle Jesse on a Japanese billboard. There's a funny gag involving pedestrian traffic, which causes them to switch their children with strangers, and a Japanese toilet eats CJ's wedding dress. This, my friend, is what they call Stockholm Syndrome. Now that DJ and Steve have ended their other relationships, what is this episode going to be about? It's about Max finally being tall enough to ride a roller coaster. Oh, and I think Ramona Gibbler may be joining a cult, or at the very least, the dance academy from Suspiria? What is happening here? Steve and DJ decide to wait a month before jumping into any kind of relationship with each other, like it even matters. He's just gonna lurk outside of her window anyway. The episode, again, does have a few funny moments, one of which involving a disgruntled roller coaster employee, and even the roller coaster itself, which is like a hybrid between a roller coaster and a haunted house, and it's called the Troller Coaster. That is something that I would definitely like to go on. I don't like that this show is starting to have moments go back to being completely terrible. Good news! It's back to being terrible. The older kids are in high school now, and it takes no time at all for one of them to say, "Oh my gosh, the girls here have boobies!" Jackson gets really embarrassed when he slips on bologna in the cafeteria, which causes him to trend. Plus, Kimmy and Max infiltrate the high school as two jive-talking DJs. This is the worst Spider-Man origin story. It is something when the only plotline that isn't bad is the one where Matt and DJ get trapped in a room with an alligator, but even then it's still disappointing that the alligator doesn't eat any of them. Oh, and Stephanie's gonna have a baby. It's a good thing this season is spread out over 18 episodes, because then we wouldn't have the riveting story of Max getting sick and having to stay home from school. He even drops a walk like an Egyptian joke. I'm sure the actor gets that reference, much like naming the last episode Fast Times at Bayview High. Let's not forget the soon-to-be classic joke of Kimmy Gibbler smashing Candy with a mallet and saying, "I'm playing Candy Crush." Or DJ finding out that her youngest son, Tommy, isn't learning fast enough, so he has to go see a speech therapist. Alright, Max says Holy Chalupas again, so I guess that catchphrase is back for good. Fuck you! They say holy chalupas again in the first scene, and it isn't even Max who says it. Now everyone is saying that catchphrase. Double fuck you! There's a lot of weirdness to be had in a scene which contains a sunglasses on the dog joke, and also a reference to Stephanie possibly having fake boobs. Stephanie and her boyfriend Ashton Cloncher interview possible surrogates for their baby. Just go the Monica and Chandler route and get Anna Faris. They hire the best possible candidate though. Kimmy Gibbler is going to carry their child as she comes into the kitchen and says, "Did someone order womb service?" Oh, they're not out of womb jokes yet as Kimmy comes in again and says, "Hey there, womb mate." I spoke too soon about bringing up the Anna Faris Friends plotline since Kimmy makes an out-of-context joke about carrying her brother's baby for him, so it's the Giovanni Ribisi Friends plotline. This whole universe is creepy. Once DJ changes her Facebook status from in a relationship to it's complicated, some random dad just comes into the house and says, "Does someone want to have a play date?" Ew. Then again, this is the same world where the kids break a statue in the living room, so to cover it up, Max puts on a fake beard and stands in place of the statue, and no one notices it. Idiots! You know, I've constantly been referring to Steve as Stalker Steve, even though he was really only creepy in the first season. Maybe they have severely toned him down a bit. So in this one, he's given DJ a fridge-sized calendar, all of them featuring pictures of himself, counting down the days until they go on their date. Nope, he's still an overbearing creep. Then again, so is everyone else here. One of Jackson's friends has this obsession with DJ that's like a shitty sitcom version of that kid who was obsessed with Betty Draper on Mad Men. Why do all men of all ages feel the need to stalk DJ? Even Max is having his own issues, as some rich girl has a thing for Max, but then he turns her down because he already has a girlfriend. Again, who is kidding who there? I am a little impressed that this season isn't doing cameos every other episode like the previous seasons. Anyway, in this episode, Danny, Uncle Jesse, and Uncle Joey come back to celebrate their 30-year dadiversary. Lemon party! You want to know what's creepier than dating Steve? Having a date with Steve in your home with your own relatives acting as servers. This episode ends dramatically with everyone getting bad news. People lose their jobs, Kimmy might not be pregnant, and Steve gets a job offer from LA to work with the Lakers. Oh, it's a good thing he broke up DJ's engagement to a non-psycho, asshat. This episode begins with Danny, Uncle Joey, and Uncle Jesse waking up in bed together. Told ya. The finale goes exactly where you'd think it goes. Creepy Steve is salivating over the bare foot of an LA Laker right next to the bare foot of DJ as he decides whether or not he wants to work for the Lakers or stay with DJ. Seriously. Oh, he takes the job. That way he can stay in a relationship with DJ and she never has to see him. Everybody wins. Naturally, the episode ends with a big 80s dance, so it's like Stranger Things 2, only for people with shitty taste. Max is even dressed like MC Hammer, as he makes an early 90s Hammer reference. You know, 80s. Oh, and Kimmy's now pregnant with Stephanie's child. This was the least annoying season of Fuller House. Oh, it's still bad. It's just like the difference between a Full House episode that simply makes you go, ugh, versus one that makes you want to jump into a tub of used needles. On the plus side, Max was a lot more toned down this season. He's less annoying and more like an elderly gay man who lives in their house. Sure. Fine, he's now the second most obnoxious son on television, right behind Manny from Modern Family. Going into the third season of Fuller House is like going into your sixth PureFlix movie. I don't know if it's genuinely better than what came before it, or if I'm just numb to all the terribleness that it's throwing at me. Here's hoping that next season, someone actually does get eaten by an alligator.